Okay. Live streaming. Oh. Okay, so that's kind of magical. Sorry about the screw up here, but the fact that everything went sideways once I started live streaming is real consistent with what I was going to talk about today. So it all works out for the good. So what I'm going to do now, you guys feel free to pipe in the chat, and I am going to roll this audio that I recorded earlier whilst I sit here and work on. I'm going to look at some of these old Krita scenes from the anime that I actually started working on when I very first started live streaming on YouTube. So this would have been back in, like 2018, 19, somewhere in there. But yeah, the fact that I went to do the live stream and all of a sudden immediately everything in OBS that I'm used to didn't work the way I expected it to. It's a great, what we call an object lesson, and completely jibes with what I was talking about or am going to talk about. And with that, I'm going to roll the audio and start working on this animation stuff and listening to the audio myself. So hopefully we'll have a better result this time around, won't we? Here we go. Check 1, 2, 3. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do today. I am going to play this audio, which is taken from my journal this morning. And the topic relates to some discussion that's been taking place in the Discord. And what it basically has to do with is creativity and the internal debate that we often have as creative types about whether our work is good enough or how hard it would be to, accomplish this or that. Ross had commented that he found it surprising when a musician he liked had asserted, I suppose in an interview, that he wrote, recorded, and performed music purely for himself. And the actual person he was talking about, by the way, was Ian Anderson of Jethro Tull, whom I think Ian's a solid dude, and I have enjoyed, as I put in my comments on the Discord, I walk around the house humming to myself, and your suntan rapidly peels, and you make all your animal deals. Anyway, yeah, I like Ian Anderson. But anyway, I had a response to the give and take between myself and Amar and Ross that I wanted to share on Discord, but frankly, it was too long. So here we go. I'm going to literally just read what I wrote in my journaling this morning. So this is a very transparent, negatively charged experience for me in a way, because I'm authentically just reading pretty much exactly what is in my personal journal. So there is a backdrop. So let me set the table with this. The backdrop would be, this is the holiday season. Most of the stuff that goes on around here in the wake of the holidays is actually in the wake of the holidays, because when Christmas Day comes, literally nothing happens here. And we love that, Valerie and I. We love just having a quiet day. We prefer it. And there's a bit of preparation for when the family's going to come over, and that's all happening a little closer to New Year's Eve than Christmas. So that works for us because we do have a not a blended family, but I mean, it's no secret that I went through a divorce like 12 years ago. And so the family sort of split up. So my position has always been, you guys go and do everything you want to do on that side of the family. And then we'll regroup over here and have some fun on this side of the family. That's pretty much the way we do it. So it works for us. Anyway, the whole holiday thing is for me fundamentally stressful. And that's not really a complaint. It just is the way it is. It just is. And it doesn't matter how much I enjoy when people are here, because I do have a lot of fun. I am toast for 2 days afterwards, no matter what. No matter how fun it is, no matter how cool it is, I'm a dish rag for a couple days afterwards. And I think that's because fundamentally I am an introvert. Fundamentally, I don't love crowds. I can work a crowd. I can perform. I can play the game, but I don't love it. So anyway, that's just setting the table for why my journaling starts out the way it did. So here it is. This is what I wrote. Right now, no negative grousing is allowed in. No complaining, no, oh, of course it did, when something goes wrong. No worry, no anger. These do not strengthen or help me. Well, okay, actually they do. But the problem is that every positive hidden in a negative comes with so many energy-sapping side effects that it's a net loss. It's not a win. Positive attitudes and framing, which I'm sidetracking here and there. Okay, so little sidetrack here. When I talk about positive framing, I'm talking about things like assertions, like positive assertions, affirmations, you might say. They have their place and they can be useful, okay? But they tend to come up short, and so what I'm doing is I'm unpacking the reasons why. The actual bones and sinew working underneath what you're trying to accomplish with positive affirmations and why it kind of works but kind of doesn't. So back to the script here. Positive attitudes and framing is completely a choice. Okay. Again, side road. That's because it's a side road because I want to say that sounds like pie in the sky. We're hearkening back to the days of Zig Ziglar or whatever, where the idea is just, you need to have a positive attitude. Have a positive attitude. Well, that's true. But I've noted before that attitude is an aviation term. It has nothing to do with your emotions. Attitude is which way you are pointed. It's a much better way to think of attitude because it makes it clinical. The question about attitude is, what are you looking at? What are you focusing on? So anyway, back to the script. Positive attitudes and framing is a choice because the driver of it is not optimism or pessimism. Because both optimism and pessimism are predictors and are therefore nonsense. You cannot predict. The key to positive feelings is curiosity and rationality. You take note of what you are able to observe and understand, in the challenges you're going to face today in your life or the things that have gone wrong in the house or the family or the relationships or whatever. But you take note of it. You observe. You go, well, okay, here's what's going on. You understand it as well as you can. You clinically assess the situation, and then you respond and then accept the rewards and costs associated with your choices. So again, now I'm off script for a second. We emotionally go off the rails because we're worried about the consequences of a wrong decision a lot of times. And this trickles right down into our art, the stuff we're creating. We want it to be good. Well, wait a minute. Good is a judgment in hindsight. So you don't get to know if your thing's going to be good. And certainly, obviously, you can't know if it's going to be embraced by an audience until after you do it. You can't. So all I'm saying is I totally understand why you would want to. But the point is you're literally fighting a losing battle that can never, ever, ever, ever work. It can't because you cannot predict. That means, again, that optimism and pessimism are both irrational. So you respond to what you observe and you accept the rewards and the costs associated with your choices, and then the new disrupted state of affairs, disrupted in the sense that your situation changes a little bit because you infuse yourself into it. And when that happens, that then calls for a new assessment, and round it goes. This is how it works. So I would point out that it is synergistically energizing, so you can read that as saying it feels good to have a positive bent. Why? Because curiosity resonates with the external insights and observations which you discover. In other words, instead of looking at something and either being worried about it or fearful about it or uncertain about it, just say, what the hell do I see? What do I know and what do I not know? Take inventory of the facts of the matter. Get the emotion out of it for a moment and look at the facts as best you can discern them. And the externalized insights and observations which are discovered actually, kind of magically, stimulate creativity. Once you get away from the emotion, you say, well, okay, here's the problem. Well, how are we going to solve it? And you look at the different approaches and you go. So when thinking about attitude or the emotional timbre of my lived experience, when I write down what I want to have be true, a lot of times it turns out it actually is. And here's why. Both optimism and pessimism find precisely what they're looking for. Because the good and the bad are both in every situation. Like if you have a situation that's kind of negative, obviously, rationally, that negative situation also provides an opportunity to either make it better or learn. And frankly, in our lived experience, everything is about contrast. So pessimism finds what it's looking for. Optimism rationally acknowledges that there is good or there are interesting things to be found in your situations because there always is. But you have to look for it. So in that process, if you can, again, divorce yourself from the emotions which come from trying to predict, which is inherently more emotional for the obvious reason that prediction is literally impossible. Literally impossible. So you're putting yourself in a situation where you're destined to lose. And even if logistically you kind of win, what you've done is you've created for yourself an extremely negative lived experience through the process of getting to an outcome that's actually pretty good. All I'm saying is that's stupid. Why do that to yourself? And I also acknowledge fully that it has taken me years to habitualize the things I'm talking about today. It is not instantaneous. All good change is gradual. All. Why? Because when things change in your life, even if they're good for you, even if they're satisfying, your body actually rejects it. So I'm off script now, by the way, you probably guessed. But so what that means is that if you are framing your lived experience in a negative way, then the recursive feedback loop of seeing the dark side is literally defining the character of the lived experience you have along the way. And so just the question is that what you want? Well, let's keep going because it may in fact be what you want. See, everything that changes in your life for the good is by definition new. If it wasn't new, you wouldn't want it in the first place because you would already have it, wouldn't you? That means that everything that you want to change is a change. And if it's a change, it's new. And if it's new, it's unfamiliar. And if it's unfamiliar to your subconscious, it's kind of scary, even if it's good. Your body will tend to reject it. So if you choose to look for the good, look for the positive, look for solutions to your problems, with the expectation that, you'll probably find it. You might not, but you give it a try. It's kind of a delight to find the good, to find the interesting in your creative work, the painting that you want to paint, the animation that you want to do, the music you want to create, whatever. It's fun when you start, when you stick your hands in the clay and start to mold it into something. What happens is the clay changes because you've disrupted it. You've changed it. Because you've disrupted it, you begin to observe new things that were not there before. Why? Because you freaking changed it. And what happens is the things you see and observe either are positive or negative. In other words, they either feel good, like, that's moving in the right direction, or they feel bad. Ooh, that line or that note of music or that movement in the animation, it doesn't feel good. I know what I want to feel, and I'm not feeling it yet. Well, not only do you have that feedback, which is completely clinical and rational, but you also see that the very nature of the enterprise, which is essentially curiosity with some engagement with stuff, what happens is the curiosity starts to spark and come to life where all of a sudden you start to get ideas. And you go, I could do this, I could do that. And then if you're typical, what you're going to then immediately do is hijack that creativity, that moment where you found an idea that was the most authentic representation of your ideas and your mind and your heart. You strangle your baby in the crib by going, well, is it going to be good? I don't know. That's probably not a good idea. I mean, probably nobody will like that. You're gonna talk yourself right out of it. So instead of immediately sabotaging that curiosity with pessimism surrounding both the effort and the cost of the discovery itself, because there's a cost. You're going to spend the energy. Okay, recognize that energy expense is the currency of living. Let me say that again. Energy expense is the currency of living. That means you pay the energetic cost whether you are enthused or pessimistic. It doesn't matter. You're going to spend all of your energy for today either way. So why then would we trend pessimistic, fearful, cynical, frustrated? Why would we do that? Well, I have a theory that if you find that your time of rest or your time of mindless self-entertainment, the time when you're just scrolling or you're listening to some music or you're just going to sleep, if that time and place in your life is a place of escape for you, like finally you can relax and just go do that, then you might be inclined to want to incur the full energetic cost as quickly as possible. In other words, you might approach life pretty negatively because what that does is you form an expectation that things aren't going to necessarily go your way, and that frames for you the excuse to retreat to your place of escape. Does this make sense? Because you're afraid of rejection. You're afraid people aren't going to like your ideas. They're not going to like the authentic you. The problem is that the only person that ever will really be both satisfied and potentially successful is the authentic you. Because that's the you that has something to offer that literally nobody in the history of the universe has had. There are close calls where there are people that do have similar ideas, kind of at the same time or whatever. But I digress. So do you get it here? What we're really talking about when we talk about the positive or negative character of our lived experience and our creative life, what we're really actually talking about is just energetic expense, just energy expense. And this is physical. It's not esoteric at all. You've got trillions of mitochondria that are creating energy. that allows neurons to fire, allows hormones or proteins to work with. I'm having a brain fart. Anyway, there's the electrical charge and the way molecules fit together, chirality, all these things matter. And bottom line is, I was thinking of the word enzyme, because the enzyme is a catalyst that allows proteins to actually come together. An enzyme is going to be a catalyst that that itself isn't destroyed by the process of helping something else to do what it wants to do. So again, I digress pretty badly there. But my point is, this is all about energy expense. If you can get outside of yourself for a minute and realize this isn't about how things go for you, good or bad, and it isn't even about how you feel. It's about what are the facts of the matter and what is the energy and cost that you're going to incur. My contention is you're going to incur the energy costs no matter what, so why not make it a fun ride? It's why we need to sleep, because we chew up all our energy in the day, So the creative, curious mind is specifically looking for energy-efficient ways to get to a result. Notice that the focus, i.e. the attitude, is pointed at an imagined result, something that is unique to your mind, your imagination. That's what you're focused on in that scenario. When you're in a positive, curious, exploratory frame of mind. Your focus is not on the real-time flubs, the challenges, the errors, the resistances, because you expected those. Of course those are going to happen. The difference is when you're pessimistic, you expect them to go, oh, yep, see, there you go. It happens every time. And when you're positive, you go, well, that kind of sucks. Well, keep our eye focused on what we're trying to get to. We may fail. That's okay. But we're going to keep our attitude and our focus on the imagined reason for engaging with this here, now, in the first place. So the emotional compass is pointed towards something at least potentially satisfying. So with all of this in mind, the crux of overcoming pessimism and fear is not optimistic assertions of what you would have to be true. Because if you think of it that way, you're viewing it emotionally, not energetically. And the facts of the matter is this is about energy. Energetically, curiosity is inherently more resonant, and I mean that in the literal sense. It's additive. When things start to go well, it piles up on itself, and then at some point, because of what's going on in your body, you begin to feel it. You go, oh, this feels good. This is fun. This is exciting. We love the word exciting, right? Because the uncovering of ideas and possibilities actually sparks additional new ideas. It's additive. Pessimism is negative because you're actively seeking disappointment to satisfy your expectation. And a lot of times what we do is we ground that expectation in things over which we have absolutely no control, such as the acceptance of our creative efforts, in the public square. You don't control that. You cannot control that. Now, you can argue, well, I can spend a lot of money on Facebook ads. Yes, you can. Go for it. It might work out. I submit that if you jump through a lot of hoops and find what we often refer to as success, but your lived experience every inch of the way was kind of miserable, is that a good trade? It might be in some cases. There's nothing wrong with functioning a little bit defensively, about being cautious about very real risks or things that can go sideways. But the dirty little secret behind modern esoterica and personal coaching and improvement, the thing I sort of tripped over that I think everybody seems to miss, is that we will do the therapy and pursue the coaching to uncover, often quite accurately, the roots of our angst, but we stop short of the rational, factual, final reason, which is that our dysfunctionalities serve us. They actually gratify a need. Sometimes it's the need to be disappointed because the need to be disappointed is consistent with what we've experienced in the past. The horrible, even dirtier little secret about that is the reason that you experienced it in the past was probably for the same reason you're doing it now, which means it's always been something you've been creating for yourself. So your disappointments provide an excuse to validate how you feel or expect to feel about yourself and your ability and your place in the world in the first place. So this observation reveals that the entire dynamic is quite circular. Well, put it this way, you tend to find what you look for. But the optimism versus pessimism thing isn't about how you feel. It's about what you expect, which is a reflection of what you're looking for and whether you truly believe you might just find it. And that the lived experience will be pleasurable and satisfying. If you're afraid that the lived experience is going to be disappointing for you, you will shy away from even trying. So you're hoping the lived experience will be pleasurable and satisfying as opposed to being disappointing and tinged with regret, or especially when we react to our disappointments in manners that we are ashamed of. You know, you blow up and you kick the dog and blah, blah, blah. Because those behaviors don't match what we deeply prefer to be. Okay, so I'm going to stop this, and I am now live. But anyway, I just pre-recorded it because I wanted to mostly read out of my journal, and so if anybody ever wondered what kind of things I write in my journal every day, you just got a big mouthful of it, or earful of it, I guess I should say. So I am interested, though, if anybody was, actually paying attention. I know it can kind of go on pretty long, but I'm certainly interested in people's opinions about these ideas. So, meanwhile, the animation seems to be going pretty well here. I was going to go back and look at some stuff from a long time ago. The problem being that running OBS and doing a live stream while, like diving into the old stuff could be a lot of fun, but it's pretty cerebral and it's too distracting to kind of be doing this while I'm doing that. So no big deal. So this shot is looking okay. I think I'm going to go in and look at a couple of the, I do want to save that. That has to be saved through the network. But yeah, I've had ample technical problems in the last couple months. If you want to talk about things, sort of external things going wrong, oh my God, it's been amazing. I mean, I've had literally 3 computers crash in a month. Pretty close to a month anyway. And it's all good. I mean, it's forced, and in a way it is very good, because what it's done is it's forced me to reconfigure my system in a way, and my workflow in a way that's way more consistent with what I've really been kind of thinking I want to do all along. The problem is, it's a bumpy road. What time is it anyway? 12:41. So I'm going to have to wrap up here pretty quick. What do we have here? It appears, okay, so films, anime. Let's look at, what the heck? I'm going to look at Fan Futurama too, just because I'm feeling frisky and just kind of thinking about things I'm going to do something with here in 2026. Now that's kind of interesting. 2.81. Wonder what's in there. Oh, my storyboard. Makes you wonder if the audio is going to work. Let's find out. That would be good news. Yeah, it actually might.
Yeah, right. It was not manufactured.
Okay, so looks like Fan Futurama has been sitting here languishing for 5 years now, waiting for me to actually do something with it. Anyway, okay, so it looks like there's not too much going on in the comments, and I do need to wrap up. So let's call this a day. I just wanted to share what I shared because I think it's important when I see guys. Okay, so just so you guys understand, the source of this was the Discord. Okay, and Discord has been acting a little funky today, which it usually doesn't. Discord is pretty tightly coded as far as I can tell, and So blah, 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 blah. So this was the thread, in the general thread. We were talking about, let me just pop this up here. Okay, so what this was all about was we were talking about the change in the marketplace with the rise of microdramas. So for me, I'm going, that's kind of interesting to me, because what I'm thinking about doing with my cartoon is actually releasing the third episode that way in short segments. That could be 2 minutes, could be 5 minutes, whatever, but basically do it that way. And I happen to find that interesting, and I talked about it in my last live stream, because it's basically a debate whether if my distribution arrangements are actually doing me all that much good. And so then it kind of turns into a discussion between Amar and Ross and myself about different things that are happening in the industry. And then basically, Ross commented having a cliffhanger every 2 minutes is pretty hard. Amar says it would make you a really good storyteller if you can tell a good start, middle, and end in 1 to 3 minutes. And they're both correct. It is hard, and it would make you a good storyteller. So when these discussions go too long, which to me it kind of maybe felt this way, because here's Amar giving us some goodies about stop motion, and it's very cool. What I'm wanting to see is Amar do some stop motion. If we're gonna, so I said here that words like hard and good kind of obfuscate what's really going on here. And so this whole conversation, which I invite anybody that watches this video to join in on, is we're basically saying, look, we're on a path here as creative people, right? And we want things to go well. We want to create things where it is satisfying and fun to do it, and we're also gratified by the end result, and we feel good about what we have done. The icing on the cake, of course, is when we put something out there in some way, and there's an audience that receives it and likes it, right? That's basically what we hope for. And so that's all good. So the crux of the matter to me does not become, well, get motivated, create something. That's a point that does need to be made, but that's not the point. The point is we're spending our energy every day, and we should ask ourselves this question. How much of this energy is being spent worrying, basically, debating with ourselves about what we think will work? I see it in discussions with, it's interesting because when I am in a discussion with my two sons, my older son and I will be talking to my younger son about his career trajectory, okay, as an example. And my older son's perspective very much favors the traditional path of getting higher education and maybe even like a master's degree, depending on the, your area of study, and the rewards that can go with that. And that pathway has worked well for him and his wife. My perspective, because I never did that really. I mean, I went to college and got a bachelor's degree, but basically my whole pathway was completely entrepreneurial. I mean, basically I had a real job for 5 months, got fired, and that was it. And started my own business in 1991. And basically, I don't want to say I never looked back, because the first 5 months were really, really difficult, right? But you learn a lot when you deal with, like, business owners and stuff, and your role is essentially to sell. You learn a lot about how to, click with people and ask for the sale and blah, 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 blah. So, which, by the way, my older son is actually really good at too. I mentioned before, he's one of the, he's a very accomplished personal trainer in New York City, which is an extremely competitive marketplace. So the interesting thing is, he's not right. When he's sort of coaching my younger son, he's not correct, and he's not wrong either. And same with me. I'm not right, and I'm not wrong. And yet we have two completely different perspectives about which pathway is maybe more appropriate for Kyle, my younger son. And the fact of the matter is, it's turned out to be a mix. right? And the only way you find this out is you have to walk the path. You try things. Sometimes you find out you make a mistake. Sometimes you find out that what you thought you wanted, you didn't really want that much. But the only way you found out that you didn't want it was by doing it and trying. Then you find out if it's what you want, right? And the amazing thing about it is a great quote from Brian Tracy, it always works and there's no other way. Now, I'm not saying there's no cost, because there can be. It can be quite painful and brutal. But that's okay. Life can be difficult at times. In fact, it always is. And so, there's going to be challenges either way you slice it, so you might as well, it's like the Sergiana Dvorak, I think that's the name, mindset. If it's going to be challenging either way, you might as well please yourself, basically. And the problem is that on the Discord, a lot of those kinds of discussions pretty much boil down to what we're really doing, and you see it all over the place on YouTube, is what we're really doing is we're asserting that this is what the world wants, or this is what the world likes, or this is what the world will respond to. And then we're looking to our peer group to give us some affirmation that, oh, yeah, that'll work. When in fact, none of us have a clue what we're talking about. It's all speculation. And so my point, in this little diatribe that I just played, is that all of that speculation is itself a massive energy cost. Because what happens is you wind up noodling around all day debating whether, should I start this? Should I try that? Should I finish this? Should I give up? What are people going to think? And it's all nonsense. Because pragmatically speaking, all you've done is just given all your energy to absolutely nothing. So it's better to just try, give it a shot. And if it sucks, for us people that are like animators or creators, I think the basic rule is this. If what you're doing is good enough for the marketplace to embrace it on some level, even if it's just getting some likes on YouTube or whatever, if it's good, it will very quickly be obvious whether other people think it's good. And if they don't, then you just have to do what you have to do. You have to look at, okay, where did I go wrong? What I'm doing here, by the way, is not, it's nothing. It's not viral. I don't get particularly very many views on my videos or live streams. And the important thing is I don't much care. I truly don't. I'm kind of doing what you guys were talking about in the Discord, when you talked about Ian Anderson. I'm just going to do, and especially even more so in 2026, I'm just going to do what I do, my thing for my reasons. Sometimes maybe I'm working on Fan Futurama. Sometimes I'm working on Chronicles of Melchizidek. Sometimes, that's not a very good picture of Fry, is it? And sometimes I'm not here at all, which in 2025, frankly, most of the time I haven't been. But we're all on a journey and figuring it out. So it's why I'm kind of a collectivist. I'm always open to other people's ideas. So feel free to comment, blah, blah, blah. And with that, I think I will wrap up and probably be back soon. So you guys have a great day and a merry day after Christmas.